Okay, I think we'll get started. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to this live demo of Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM Enterprise. It's great to see such a big turnout for this webinar. This is a monthly event, and if you've got colleagues, obviously, that have an interest, then please let them know. We'll be doing the event again next month. So in terms of what we have on the agenda for today, what we're going to be doing is just a very quick introduction to Sumo Logic, who we are. We're going to talk about something that we call continuous intelligence. And then we're going to look at some of the unique differentiators that we provide with the Cloud SIEM Enterprise solution. And then after that, we'll dive straight into the demo. So I'm joined today by Clive McDonald. So Clive heads up the sales engineering team in EMEA, and Clive's going to be helping out, fielding questions, those types of things. So yeah, if you have any questions as you go along, you should see on the webinar taskbar a little Q&A button. So feel free as we go along to post your questions in there, and Clive will field them and we'll get them answered. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get going. So what we're really looking at today is how we're going to be reducing risk through security analytics and SOC automation. And before we dive into the detail, just really wanted to share this slide here, which really speaks tremendously to the data growth that we're experiencing. So both IDC and IDG estimate by 2025 that we'll be having somewhere around about 50 zettabytes of data being processed, which is clearly a challenge for all organizations. If you transpose the security function onto that, what that means is there's an ever-increasing volume of data that needs inspection for threats, and obviously the tools necessary to keep up with that explosive growth. And we believe the right approach here is something that we call continuous intelligence. So continuous intelligence is really a multifaceted approach to managing IT operations. So everything from your DevSecOps through to security operations, site reliability engineering, and obviously your engineering teams as well. Continuous intelligence is really about providing a single pane of glass to provide real-time visibility into all facets of IT. So that might be what we call operational intelligence, so understanding how your applications are running and performing, ensuring that that your customer experience is the top that it can possibly be. There's what we call business intelligence. So this is really about obviously understanding the performance of your applications. Global intelligence is a unique feature that we bring. So Sumo Logic is a cloud native SaaS which runs within AWS, and because we have a broad array of customers running, and we're able to provide some intelligence, some security related intelligence around the threats that are being faced across all of our customer base, and provide you with a baseline, a comparison of how you're doing relative to your peers. And then finally, there's the area of security intelligence. So this is really where we're going to be focusing today. This is largely about collecting data, analyzing it for threats, joining it together, and then obviously managing the whole workflow around that. So with continuous intelligence, with the Sumo Logic's continuous intelligence platform, we're able to collect a wide variety of data. Clearly, there's the log data that everyone's most familiar with nowadays from a security management perspective. But what we're finding is many of our customers are taking a holistic approach to security. So they're not only interested in the security controls and the threats that they're detecting, but they're also interested in having a picture of how the infrastructure is performing. So that's through features that we provide to collect metrics from your infrastructure, obviously performance-related metrics. We also provide a capability to trace. So within your applications, as you're developing them, we're able to provide visibility into the transactions, if you like, that are occurring across the application. So what we're going to focus on today is really looking at the log and the event data, as I said, that provides the security intelligence. If we look at security operations today, as you can see on the slide here, the challenge really breaks down into three headline areas. So the first is so-called digital transformation. So many organizations have already migrated a large proportion, if not all of their workloads to cloud infrastructure. Unfortunately, if you look at the legacy SIEMs that are available on the market, all of them, or the vast majority of them, were developed at a time pre-cloud, where most organizations were operating SIEMs on-premise. And what this really means is that they're really not architected to take advantage of a lot of the SaaS benefits of elasticity and availability that obviously we leverage as part of Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM Enterprise. The second headline area is the threat landscape's changing, clearly with the adoption of new services, cloud-based services, infrastructure. There's the ever constant arms race that we talk about in security as bad actors develop new techniques, and then the good guys find ways of detecting and mitigating and preventing those. So there's that ever present arms race. Really, I guess, aggravated by this explosion in the attack surface. And then the final area of friction within security operations, and this is probably the biggest area, is around alert fatigue. So really, this is a symptom of the bigger problem, which is that we're collecting more data, and the tools that people have been using, legacy SIEMs, to process that data have really not kept up. And the problem that we're facing today is really no longer a human scale problem, i.e. alert triage. It's really something that we should be looking to use software and technology to solve. So let's have a look at one of the key aspects of Cloud SIEM Enterprise. So these statistics on the slide here actually are taken from one of our proof of concept, proof of value evaluations that occurred in a large manufacturing customer. So over a 45-day period, they sent us somewhere around 10 billion what we call records, so log lines, if you like. And they were correlated into somewhere around about 10 million what we call signals. So different SIEMs will call these different things, maybe correlated events or notable events or alerts. They're all the same thing. We call them signals. They're really the output of typically a rules-based correlation engine. And the bad news is, most SIEMs stop right here. So they're providing some tremendous data reduction. So we're going down from 10 billion records to only a mere 10 million potential detections in there. But this is really the root cause of so-called alert fatigue. We have too many signals that analysts need to look at, to put their own eyeballs on in today's SOC. So if we compare that to the approach taken with Cloud SIEM Enterprise, we have a concept of insights, which is really a way of connecting and aggregating related threat detections in the form of signals. So from those 10 million signals that we collected, they were boiled up to 175 actionable insights. So pre-baked incidents that the organization could set their tier 3 and incident response teams loose on remediating. From those 175, no follow-up action was required in 95 of those cases. 15 were false positives, i.e. they were detections which ended in dead-end investigations, and 65 of those were real incidents which, because Cloud SIEM Enterprise was able to bubble up out of the noise of all of those 10 million signals, obviously enabled this particular organization to greatly reduce their risk and increase their overall efficacy in terms of looking at all of the data that they were collecting. So needless to say, they became a customer of ours. They experienced tremendous reduction in manual effort around alert triage. So what do we think are the facets of a modern SaaS SIEM? So there's many different so-called SaaS SIEMs on the market, but many of them originate from legacy products. They're not really built as a proper software service, so they don't benefit from the multi-tenanted elastic scalability that we have here at Sumo Logic. We also, because we're a cloud native or born in the cloud native SaaS SIEM, we're also able to collect from a wide variety of data sources. So any of the commercial clouds out there, Amazon AWS, Azure, GCP, as well as from on-premise devices as well through collection infrastructure. So we really truly believe going forward, security operations need to leverage that cloud native SaaS approach and the elastic scalability that it provides. Just really as a data point here, our biggest customers, which was for a US sporting event, we were ingesting 280 terabytes per day. That's one customer, albeit our largest customer, but one customer using our SIEM products. So the second facet we believe required of a modern SaaS SIEM is the automation piece. So we already looked at, if you like, the cost of alert triage. The fact is today, legacy SIEMs, the SIEM products that you guys are probably already using, really do nothing to help with alert triage. And what we're doing is essentially ending up with a bunch of, or too much data, and leaving the analysts to find the needle in the needle stack, if you like. So we have this, this feature or this concept of insights. I talked about it in just a second, and we'll see it in the demo very shortly. The final piece is a model analyst experience. So, you know, gone are the days of so-called swivel chair correlation, where you've got multiple screens and multiple consoles open. And what we've done is we've built an engaging, modern, up-to-date interface that the security analyst can feel at home in and engaged with, and find all of the information that they need to make determinations as they work through remediating events. So final slide before we dive in, just really to summarize what we're going to see as part of the demo. So first and foremost, what we're going to see is a correlation based threat detection engine, which is going to provide a centralized overview of all of the threats. As I mentioned, it supports any public cloud, any private cloud, on any type of on-premise environment. The second thing that we're going to look at is the workflow automation piece. So what can we do to improve alert triage and security operations existing processes? So really what we're going to do is we're going to show you how we can use this so-called insight mechanism to provide some tremendous automation and elevate the role of the security analyst to actually responding to ongoing threats, rather than looking for needles in the needle stack. The third thing that we're going to show you is how you can gain enhanced visibility and context for investigations. So further data around the users, the devices, the services, etc. And then finally, we'll obviously, you'll be seeing this interface that's been finely tuned to help security analysts in their role. Okay, so without any further ado, we'll move across into the demo. So what you see on screen here is what we call head-up display. So this is all situational awareness in an old-fashioned security operations environment. This is the view you might have beamed onto the wall of your security operations center. The big, what we call insight radar in the middle of the screen here is simply charting 3 key metrics over the period of time we're looking at. So on the outside, we have the record metric. So this is this metric that we see up at the top left-hand corner here. Currently, we're looking at 1 day's worth of statistics. And as you can see in that day, we're receiving 3 million records over that 24-hour period. And that value is being charted over the 24-hour period represented on the circle here. The middle part, this histogram here, is charting the middle value, the signal value. So as I said in the presentation, one of the big challenges with current legacy SIEMs is the fact that alert triage is a manual process, and unfortunately this is where legacy SIEMs leave you. They leave you with a correlation engine to try and tickle out the needle in the needle stack. But as you can see here, even though correlation's been quite effective, we've only got 75,000 signals in a 24-hour period, 75,000 detections to look at in that 24-hour period. That's pretty impressive in terms of reducing that data down from 3 million records. However, you would not want to be sending 75,000 detections into your SOC to look at on a daily basis, but that's the reality. And today, many SOCs are solving the overload problem simply by looking at the most severe or threatening events based on a severity scale. So this is where Cloud SIEM Enterprise kicks in with insights. So insights, which you can see here in the insight radar represented by triangles, these represent the correlated groupings of signals. And as you can see, they also are the unit of workflow. So each of these red triangles, or each of the triangles, I should say, represents one insight, and then the coloring represents the status of that particular insight. So as we can see, over this 24-hour period we're looking at, we've percolated out 6 insights, and we're going to jump in here and have a look at those 6 insights now. So first of all, this is obviously listing the insights that have been generated in the period that the filters applied for. So this is a 24-hour period. The first thing you'll notice about the insight itself is its name. So the name is provides, if you like, a ticket ID. So we see here insight 1586. And then the second piece is this name, credential, access, and exfiltration. So this is the first area where the product's using automation and actually MITRE attack tactics to identify if you like, the progression of the threat detections that are contained as part of the insight. In fact, you can see the MITRE attack tactics that are labeled for the underlying signals. So we have exfiltration, credential access, and then some other activity happening here as part of Insight 1586. The other information you see is the severity of the insight. So that's derived from the underlying signals. And as you can see here, we have some basic statistics. So we're collecting together 4 unique signals. So that's an important thing. If you have an excessively firing signal, it's not going to weigh into the severity equation here or affect the generation of insights. We're looking for unique signals against unique entities. So as we can see here from this particular entity name, this is one of our AWS assets that we have here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at this insight here, Insight 1584, in a little bit more detail for you. And the first thing that you'll notice on the left-hand side here is the workflow. So this, obviously, if I'm working as part of a SOC, I should go ahead and let my colleagues know that I'm working on the event. I'm going to go ahead and assign it to myself. We have the severity, as I mentioned. This is derived from the underlying, or the severity of the underlying signals. We've got 4 signals. The last signal was seen 7 hours ago. And then the dwell time represents the time period between the signal that generated the insight appearing and you being able to work the insight within Cloud SIEM Enterprise. I can go along and tag particular insights, and this is useful at a later date if you, for example, want to come back and report or locate insights based on a category. Many SOCs have their own type of taxonomy they can use for that. At the main part of the screen, we can see what we call the insight timeline. So this charts each signal over the period of time in which it, the insight spans. So this allows the analyst to see the progression of the event over time. And one of the big differentiators that we have with the Insight Engine is we're able to look over a 2-week period and correlate events, or even further, 2 weeks is the default. Some customers look over 4 weeks or even longer. And again, this is a great innovation over above what's available as part of a legacy correlation engine. Legacy correlation engines, as you guys, I'm sure, appreciate, really struggle to correlate events that are more than, maybe a few minutes or a few hours apart. So here we're able to correlate events, as I said, by default over a 2-week period. Now, everything you see here is essentially alert triage. What we've done is, or what the system's done, Cloud SIEM Enterprise, is it's already collected together related events. This is what you would probably do as part of alert triage. And presented them as part of Insight 1584 here. In terms of the data available, the analyst, as they begin their investigation, can click into each of the signals. As we can see here, this first signal relates to proof point, and then you have all of the detail from the original event available. You can pull up lists of actions, so you could go ahead and search, for example, for anything that's hyperlinked. So if you wanted to go and look perhaps for other logs where someone's visited this URL, it's very easy to go ahead and do that. And then finally, what you're able to do is to step through the timeline, so you don't have to keep navigating up to the insight and understand the detail of the progression of the event. Okay, so the final thing that you're going to do once you've, as an analyst, been through and looked, responded to the incident, analyzed it, you might want to escalate it to another team, or maybe you might want to use some other security tool to help you with your remediation. So these are all available and configurable out of the box. And then finally, once you finish with this particular insight, what you do would be to wrap up by obviously closing out the insight. In this particular case, I'm going to say we've resolved it, and it was a confirmed phishing incident, and then I can go ahead and close the insight. And then that really just allows us to keep, or you, I should say, to keep some basic key performance indicators around the SOC. So that was all I had planned to show you this morning. It's probably a good time for us to shift across and do some Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for that great demo, Alex. So we've got a couple of questions here. So we'll play tennis to some degree and go backwards and forwards between myself and Alex around some of these questions. So the first question, relatively straightforward. Does CSE, Cloud SIEM Enterprise, provide functionality for the likes of GCP and Azure? And I'll back that question over to you, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so obviously we, as I said in the presentation, we run as AWS. We can collect from AWS, but equally we can collect from any other type of public cloud environment, including Azure and GCP, as well as private clouds and on-premise infrastructure as well. Great.
No, thank you. And this other question I'll service. So there's a question around AWS observability, multi-account insights and security observability. And in relation to that, yes, absolutely, Sumo does provide that functionality within the Cloud SIEM in relation to being able to ascertain key security indicators, attacks, and derive insights from your AWS infrastructure. Over and above that, to talking to the overarching Sumo platform offering, we provide comprehensive observability across your AWS, GCP, and/or Azure estate, using our unique observability functionality that allows you to navigate multiple accounts, correlate all of those accounts and interconnectivity across different services within those accounts, all in a single locale. So yes, the response to that question is yes, Sumo Logic does provide that. So there is one other question. So, you know, what's the big differentiator around Sumo Logic's architecture? You know, ultimately, you know, how do you really differentiate from the other cloud SIEM solutions that are out there in the market? And I'll bat that over to you, Alex.
Sure. Yeah. Great question. So absolutely. The biggest differentiator that we have is the fact that we were architected as a cloud native SaaS. So we didn't start out live running in a virtual machine or some bare metal hardware in your data center. We started out live, as I said, in the cloud that we use, which happens to be AWS. But what it means is that the system is architected, first of all, to be multi-tenanted. So all of our customers share the same underlying software platform. Clearly, you know, the data segregated within it. But by doing that, what that really allows us to do is to leverage all of that good elastic compute, storage, and infrastructure capability that cloud services provide. And what it means is we're able to scale seamlessly. If you send us twice as much data this Friday as you did, you know, last Friday, what it means is you don't have to worry about that. That's our problem, you know, to architect the service to soak up that change in load and obviously ensure it continues to run seamlessly.
Absolutely. No, thanks, Alex. And the final question, really around data sources, and I'll service this question. So the question actually is, what types of log data or data sources can Sumo actually collect as a whole? And that's a relatively simple response. So as long as the data is humanly readable, then we can collect that data. So we can add context, correlate, normalize, and extract value from any humanly readable data source. So whatever your data source may be, logs, metrics, or any other type of digital exhaust that you deem to be appropriate, we'll be able to pass and provide value for that data. So yes, and thank you all for those questions. If you do have any other additional questions, you know, as we wrap up, I'm sure Alex will be able to service those questions, and myself. So I'll stop there. No other questions coming in from the floor right now.
Okay. Well, I guess actually timing wise, that's pretty much perfect. We're coming up against the 30-minute period now. So really just to wrap things up, thank you everyone for attending this session. Obviously, we hope that you found the session informative. If you require any further information, then feel free you know, to reach out either to Clive or myself or to your local sales rep. And the final thing is look out, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is actually a series of monthly events. So the next live demo for Cloud SIEM Enterprise is going to be on the 9th of December. So obviously, please encourage your colleagues to attend. And then finally, we talked a little bit about observability here. The next observability end-to-end demo is on the 10th of December. So 9th of December and the 10th of December for Cloud SIEM Enterprise and observability.
Just in time.
Thank you very much.
So great. Thanks, Alex. Great demo.
Cheerio now.
Thanks, bye.